Good afternoon, good morning, whatever you're watching, and however you're watching. Thank you for joining on the Sports and the World podcast. I'm Ladarius, and like I say, welcome in. And listen, it's the football time. I try to have on amazing people that you've seen before or haven't seen in a while, however you want to frame it. So I'm glad to have her back on the show, host of the amazing Sports and Stilettos podcast. Philly Sports Bettor. She's your host. She's our host. She's everybody's host. It's Bree, aka your host, Breezy. And how are you, my friend?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Like I say, happy to have you back on. It's been a while. Life and things happen, all that nature. But so
Yes.
glad to have you back on.
Thanks for
So,
having me. I'm excited.
oh, absolutely same. I was hoping like I mean, if the Eagles win, it's gonna be a great show. If they lose, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be a
Oh,
long show. I was like, it's gonna be a long show. Like, I'm like we gotta cut it short, guys. Why? You saw the score, but
yeah,
gladly they came
exactly.
out on.
Right.
So they came out on top. So let's start there, and then we'll work our way around the rest of the NFL playoffs. Listen, great game. The Rams Eagles game was a great game, very competitive game, snowy game, and being from Florida, seeing that snow, I'm like, wow, man, thank God I'm here. It's like because I've been like, look, I love my
It's
teams,
not fun.
but I love my teams, but I got to sit in what now? This feels. I'm like, boy, I was cold. I was cold for everybody. I'm like, man, wow. But anywho, but great win. So let's just jump right in. Let's get your thoughts on the game and your thoughts on the team and anything else about the game you want to talk about.
So I mean, everybody who follows me knows that I react. I don't like waiting. So, I was pretty up and down throughout the entire game. Um, the first half I thought went pretty well for the most part. Um, seeing Jalen run for a 44-yard touchdown, that's always great to see because you can see that he's mobile. You can see that he's doing okay as far as moving and all that stuff. So that was really good to see. Um, then it got to like the second half, and I was on the edge of my seat. I probably cursed more in front of my daughter than I ever have watching an Eagles game. So, that's definitely one for the books there. But overall, I was happy with the outcome. Obviously those last 4 minutes were extremely intense. Um, Garbage time, touchdown kind of thing, you know. Very, very happy with the defense. I could not be more like confident in this defense going into the NFC Championship game than I was like ever. Like it's just they've pulled together so perfectly, and you hear about like getting certain players and it's the perfect storm and everything just works. And I feel like that's how this defense is right now. It really just works. There's no real um, weakness, so to say, but it's just like it's somebody gets injured, somebody takes a play or two off to catch their breath or whatever, the next guy steps right in and picks up right where the other guy left off. And I think that's very special, and I think that's very unique because not every team has that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It felt like that Eagles defense made its presence known, especially on that last drive. That defense it showed up and showed out, as the people say.
Yeah.
And let's see a couple of comments here we'll get to. And Buddy C Double says, "Hey, let's get it, you all." Thank you, C Dub. And let's see, my buddy. Let's see, bestie Rachel. Hey, friends, how are you? She was on the show last week talking about the playoffs. So thank you, Rachel, and all those who are watching. Um, it's very interesting, and I feel that I'm glad you mentioned Jalen Hurts because to me, maybe it's just me, but I just kind of feel that there's this narrative, maybe an unfair narrative, as I always say. It's where we tend to forget that, like, he went to a Super Bowl, and people are talking like he's never been to a Super Bowl in his life. And to me, and I happened to saw, I think it was on your page, or I just saw it. Somehow I get immersed in, other team. With my team not in, I get immersed in other
Yeah.
people's Twitter. And to me, and people were talking about like Josh Allen, and I'm like, so I looked at the numbers, and I'm like, their stat line's very, in fact, eerily similar. And
Exactly.
in their matchups, the opposing quarterback, yeah, they had more passing yards in each. So it's not like both games were, single digit. It wasn't like no blowout. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm curious to get your thoughts, because I have a few more, but I'll share mine on the back end. Your thoughts on like Jalen Hurts and how he played, and just the narrative that seems to surround. It seems specific, like Jalen Hurts. Like, what's your thoughts? As a Philly fan, as an NFL fan in general, just your thoughts on the narrative around Jalen Hurts.
So I agree. I think it's very unfair, especially when you see how the games played out this past weekend. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and I believe Patrick Mahomes, give or take a certain number or whatever, all had very similar numbers as far as passing yards, as far as rushing yards. They're all mobile quarterbacks. They all rush. They all, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're all very athletic guys. And the fact that Jalen Hurts is the only person that gets thrown into the fire every week and gets talked about like he's chopped liver, like he's never done anything ever since he's been in the league, is absolutely ridiculous. And I think it's very unfair. I think that the media, national media, has this thing where if you don't pass the ball, you are incompetent or you're incapable of doing so. And we've seen it. It's not like Jalen Hurts has never passed for 200 or 300 yards. It's not like, it's not like it's never been done. And he shut people up when they were talking about the passing game. He shut people up very next week. And he said, so this is what y'all wanted to see, right? Cool. The biggest thing for me is when you get to the playoffs, the only thing that I care about is winning. If you don't win, it doesn't matter what you did in the game. You know what I mean? If you do win, now you're under a microscope, apparently, and everything that you did is being dissected, whether it's good or bad. The teams that advanced this past weekend had no turnovers. Jalen Hurts has had like 2 turnovers since the bye week. And that is a big emphasis on how this offense operates. He is not going to put the ball in harm's way. I would much rather him take a sack than to jeopardize him throwing the ball into triple coverage and it getting picked off. You know what I mean? So I think it's very unfair. And frankly, I don't like the national media and the way that they talk about my team, because I think it's half-assed. I think it's very lazy, and they're just going by a box score. And it's like, oh, well, he only threw for 160 yards, or he only threw, it's what he's been doing since he got in the league. It hasn't changed. He's just taking more care of the ball and not putting his offense in jeopardy and making the defense go out there because of a mistake he made.
You know what? You said a mouthful, and listen, I was just there listening, because it's all facts. Because see, because here's the thing. So when we look at the Hurts, Allen, and Mahomes' stat lines, and so I'm just gonna read the stat line, and I'm gonna tell people, if you're in the chat, guess which quarter. It's either Hurts, Allen, or Mahomes. Now I'm gonna read it. It's 16 of 22, 127 yards passing, 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, which quarterback do you think that is? Because you're going to hear a lot of similar stats, so it may get confusing. But see, that's Josh Allen's. There you go, Millie Mills, correct. Josh Allen. That's Josh
Yep.
Allen's stat line. So now
Yep.
here's the other stat line. I see your guys' comments. I'll get to them with this here. So here's the other stat line. 16 to 25, 177 passing yards, and a touchdown. Now, whose stat line is that? Like it's either Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, so people go, yeah. It's so. By the way, that was Mahomes. So obviously, so here's Jalen Hurts' stat line.
Yep.
There you go, Millie. And process of elimination. I think we all know the answer to this question. So Jalen Hurts went 15 to 20, 128 yards passing and a rushing touchdown. Here's the thing, and I want to address something you said because I think we get caught up in passing. It's an offensive centric league, and I understand it. But here's the thing: it just feels like we don't put the same amount of onus or pressure on. We just put it on certain quarterbacks. You know,
Oh, yeah.
like Lamar, for example, statistically a better passing season than his other two MVP seasons. But his other two seasons were still MVP, were still great nonetheless. And
Right.
the thing with Jalen Hurts is like I always say this: it's two things. A, look at what we've seen Jalen Hurts. He can throw 340. He can do it. It's not like he can't do it. He can when you have that offense. But here's the thing: what is he asked to do? Because listen, when you have a guy like Saquon Barkley, it makes your life a little bit easier. And it's
Right.
like this. So because I like folks, I don't know what to tell you. It's like you're putting this pressure on a guy who's basically just, hey, if Saquon goes off like that, why do you need to put it in the air a lot?
Right.
Not
And
everybody. Oh,
one
go
of
ahead.
the one of the media members yesterday, national media members on one of these shows, I can't remember who it was, but he pretty much said if you have explosive plays, so offense right now, you're basing everything on explosive plays, right? If you have an explosive run game, there's no need to have explosive plays in the passing game because you're already getting it on the ground. And if a defense can't stop it, which we have not seen anybody do yet, why switch it up? Why do something that isn't in a way the norm for your offense? This team was never a pass heavy team. They always established the run and then it opened up the passing game. That's how this team has been for years, for decades. They've always had a mobile quarterback, so to say, and they've always had some kind of running back that defenses couldn't get under control. And if they did get it under control, then you have AJ and Smitty on the outside, Dallas Goedert across the middle, that you can exploit any defense in this league.
Yeah, and see the thing is, I love you're making the points for me. It makes my because you hit it on the head because here's the thing. It's what the quarterback's asked to do. And listen, those explosive plays from Saquon. Listen, not every quarterback, and I think this is important. This, in my opinion, not every quarterback is built to throw the ball 30, 35 times a game. That's not asked
Right.
of them to do. Because listen, I just read three quarterbacks, and listen, Mahomes only threw it 25 times in that game. 25 times.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so folks, it's what you're asked to do. And I look at this Philly offense, I'm like, that great offensive line, it felt like it didn't miss a beat without, Jason Kelsey. It felt like, listen, and Saquon just doing Saquon things. Look, I'm not gonna listen, it's what Nick Sirianni, for that is worth. Like, look, I don't need my guy to throw the ball 30, 40 times. That's great for Joe Burrow. That's great for him. He
Right.
by proxy, he kind of has to do that to win football games. We don't have to
Yeah.
do that sort of thing here. So
Right.
it's a thing. So let's go to these comments here. We got CW saying, let's talk about the clutchness of the defensive line. Jalen Carter is growing big time. Yeah. You know, listen, those Eagles, listen, I feel like I want to call them, I don't know what to call them, the Philadelphia Bulldogs or the Georgia Eagles. I don't know what to call them because listen, Howie Roseman, listen, he's watching a lot of SEC games. He's like, and he knows a great, so he's built that. So that's a great point there, CW. And Carrie's on the show, Highlanders and Bree. Hope you're doing well. Excited for today's show. Thank you for watching and listening, Carrie. And we got CW again saying about the combat the curtain, like it's all good. can remember cursing through the game, so I understand. Yeah, listen, it happens.
Yeah.
Like, like I said, I have kids like my nephews, like they would watch, see me watching sports. They're like, oh, they know I'm going to say something. I'm like, look, here's $5, go do something. Let me, yeah,
Right.
because like just do something. There's a whole bunch of stuff over there. So yeah,
Yeah. Give me
and
my
Millie,
please.
yeah, and then Millie Mills saying, "There's what's up, bro," and Bree, hey, all right. Then Millie Mills answering the questions from earlier. So now let's talk about the Eagles' opponent here. Let's talk about these Washington Commanders. And look, whatever, like, listen, it's very hard to ignore how good Jaden Daniels is. It's very hard to ignore it.
Yeah.
And I look at this matchup, like, this is probably, like, with all due respect to the Lions, because listen, we're Lions fans. That defense was bend and break, and they broke in that game against Washington. Like, injuries, listen, I don't care who your injuries will catch up with you in one form or another. So I think that's what happened there.
Yeah.
But I look at this Eagles, the Eagles front seven, even the secondaries. It's like this matchup. It's all about, to me, it's about, can you contain, because trying to stop a guy like Jaden. I always say contain, because Jaden's the type of guy that if you can contain him enough, you have a chance to win. It's the same way I feel about Saquon Barkley. You can't stop. There's certain players in this league where you're like, oh, we got to stop that guy. You're not going to stop him. Like, because certain, whether it's through their arm, their legs, you just contain them enough to be in the game. And I feel that's the message in that defensive meetings the Eagles are having. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on the matchup, some of the things we'll be looking out for in that game, and just your overall feeling about the game.
So I want to start with people are forgetting that the Eagles played the Commanders twice already. Mm-hmm. They're completely disregarding the first game because the Eagles won the first game. They're only harping on the second game. Now, with the second game, Jalen Hurts got injured in the first quarter, out with a concussion. So you have a game plan that was geared towards Jalen Hurts that now Kenny Pickett and eventually, what's his name? The other one, the third guy, stepping in and having to take on, Tanner McKee. Now having to step in and take over a game plan that wasn't theirs, essentially. So you're already down your high IQ quarterback and another weapon in the offense, right? Second one is CJ Gardner-Johnson got ejected in that game as well. So now you're missing kind of the attitude of the defense. And not saying that the defense didn't play well, because they did. But the game would have been completely different had Jalen Hurts and CJ Gardner-Johnson stayed in that game. We would not be talking about the Commanders coming into Philly and beating us under any circumstance had they lost twice to us in the regular season, period. Now, I'm not saying that Jaden Daniels is a bad player. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be fantastic in this league until defenses catch up to how he plays, which is what we've seen in every single quarterback that has come into the league that has had a very successful rookie season. We saw it with Jalen Hurts. We've seen it with Lamar Jackson. We've seen it with Patrick Mahomes to an extent. We've seen it with all of these players. So them getting to the conference championship game, they are now going to have a much harder schedule next year. And the standard, or the ceiling, is going to be you either get to the NFC championship game again or you're trash. We've seen it happen. It happened with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They got to the Super Bowl, Jalen's second year. And they imploded last year. They started off 10-1 and then went 1-6. And then get knocked out the first round of the playoffs. So, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but these are patterns that we've seen over time where defenses catch up to the quarterback and how he does things. There's much more tape on him now, things like that. So, me personally, I don't think the Commanders are going to come in here and win anything. That's just me. And I think that our defense is hungry. I think that Vic Fangio is going to make sure that these guys are prepared no matter what happens. And they're going to leave it all out on the field. And that's what I expect. So, it is what it is. And, we can, our defense is number one ranked defense in the league. Like, let's be real. Top defense in the league. They can stuff the box. We've seen Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, everybody is taking apart and stopping the run. And quarterbacks don't even throw to Quinyon Mitchell anymore. They don't even throw in his direction anymore. So it is what it is. We're top 5 in passing defense or something like that right now. So it's like, I'm not worried. Scary Terry's going to be in hell all day Sunday, just like he was in the first game. So I'm not worried about it at all, but it is going to be a competition because every football game is a competition. I'm not saying that the Eagles are going to blow them out, but we're going to win, so it is what it is.
Well, folks, that's our show. No. Listen, usually I have something to come back with. Listen, that to me, that was just like a how like an off speed pitch. Like you're thinking, oh, you're gonna get like a fastball. That was like an off speed pitch, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Because you touched on every single point, and especially about defenses are going to figure out Jaden Daniels, and I think this defense is arguably the biggest challenge he's faced because, like you mentioned points about nobody talks about the first matchup. People want to talk about the second matchup for whatever people want to spin it the way they want to spin it. But here's the thing: the fact of the matter is, like when listen, that corner very good. You look at that front seven, hard to find a front line that's been better consistently all season long. And look, and I put this as one of my stats. It's like, listen, Philly at home in the playoffs are pretty good. So I tell people, so that's something to look out for. I won't reveal it. I'll reveal it on when I do the preview. I won't give away. That's the appetizer, folks. You'll get the full course with the preview. But let's go to some of these comments here. We got Millie Mills saying, Philly low key could thank us for drafting Bijan over Carter because essentially it got them Saquon Barkley next year. Listen, Millie, I wasn't going to say it.
Listen,
but
I'm not going to say everybody else in the league are a bunch of idiots by letting us get Jalen Carter, but guys might be a bunch of idiots, so it's fine.
Well, listen to Falcons front office. Listen, she said it, and I'm not saying she's wrong at all. I'm saying there's some points to be made. Listen, yes. Bijan's great. All great talent, but just something to semantics now. And let's see, we got Doughboy saying, "Wow, the Battle of I-95 this Sunday." Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Thank you for the geography. Listen, I was like, yeah, I feel like they're on the same. I'm like, and then we got I think we know Let's Go Fly Eagle. Yeah, I think we know where Doughboy stands on the issues, standing on business, and also as an Eagles fan, it concerned me about the Eagles passing game. Let's touch on that just a little bit before we transition and talk about the AFC quickly. Do you have any concern about the passing game entering this matchup?
No, I don't. I don't, because like I said, at the end of the day, if we've seen Jalen do it, it's not like he's incapable. It would be completely different if we saw 130 yards every single week. That would be different, but that's not the case. We've seen him throw for 300 yards. We've seen him throw for 250. We've seen him do these things. But when you have such an explosive running back, why put the ball in harm's way? You're not going to. Your natural reaction is to go with the safer bet. And that safer bet right now is Saquon Barkley. Period. You know, if you can exploit if you can exploit this passing defense, fine, do it. I'm cool with it, whether they do it or not. As long as they win the game. I don't care how it's won. Just win. You know, I'm pretty sure people are not going to be so upset about how much Jalen Hurts passes the ball if the Eagles get to the Super Bowl. So I really don't care. And it doesn't concern me because we've seen it happen. We've seen it done. Like, he went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes his second year in the league. So I don't want to hear this, I'm concerned about the No. Because I'm not concerned about it. You can go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and win because of or lose because of a tiny mistake that gets amplified. But if we're going to be real, I blame Gannon, so whatever. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, I'm not concerned. I'm not worried about it. All I'm concerned with is winning the game. You do it by defensive touchdowns, fine. You do it by offensive touchdowns, I don't care. Just win.
Boy, listen, that's a defense stance, folks. Listen, to me, it goes back to what we talked about. Like, look, every quarterback is not made the same, and if you have a guy named Saquon Barkley in the backfield, you can hand the ball off or even throw it in the flat. Like,
yeah,
like to me, that helps. Like, Saquon helps the passing game too. So let's not, you know, I'm not going to say he's helped me on the proper three in that regard, but I'll just say wink, wink,
right.
and just put it.
Yeah.
I'll put it in that regard. I'll go wink, wink, because I'm like, oh yeah, I see the over. I'm like, yeah, I'm taking that because, listen, it circles around the fact you have a guy like Saquon, you're in good hands like Allstate. And let's see, Mike Jink jumps in and says, "Go Birds, Eagles by 1,000,000, not by 1,000." My guy said 1,000,000.
No, that is my guy.
So if that's the case, we
Yes,
might see Tanner
absolutely.
McKee in this game. We might see Tanner McKee after all as a backup. You know, we might see him in some garbage time by 1,000,000. Even by maybe it's by 1,000. We're going to see Tanner McKee. We might see listen. We might see Jake Elliott take some snaps. We don't know. Depending on by that. And I think Doble. I think we covered this. You know, but we were to play Kansas City, and throw the football, and like you made the point earlier.
Yes.
Like you made the point. Like Jalen Hurts. Listen, we've seen that he can throw the ball. Like you said, he stood toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes. We saw it, and we saw it on the national stage specifically. So we know he, like you said, year 2, he's doing that. Not year 5. Like this is year 2. We saw him do that. So I think so. We covered that, and then he said, also remember the Eagles had the lead before Hurts got. I think, yeah. So the thing is with this Eagles team, listen, it's interesting there, and then we go to CW. Like, Eagles had the experience, and Eagles defense coordinator Fangio gonna have his guys ready. My simple, but yeah, like Vic Fangio. Listen, a Vic Fangio defense is the defense you should trust. So, and then counterpoint to these things are flying in here. And Dobo asks, my question is why Kellen Moore run more than the slant pass? I guess the question is, if I'm understanding correctly, is why Kellen Moore running more slant passes? Okay, that's me reading it too fast. So I guess the question is, why is Kellen Moore running more slant passes? That's why is he? You know, that's a great question. I'll hand it over to you on that.
For me, I think it has to deal with the opponent. You know, you don't game plan for the season, you game plan for each week. So, you know, if you know that the opposing defense can't cover slant passes, then that's what they're going to run. You know, that's their way of exploiting that defense. If you're asking why doesn't Kellen Moore run more slant passes, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But I'm glad that we left the bubble screens and the wide receiver screens in the past because watching those play out and them getting negative yards pissed me off. So I'm glad those went to the fire when we got to the playoffs.
There you go. We threw them in the fire. Oh, it's a bubble screen now. Get it out of here. Get it out of here. Immediately
Yeah,
throw it
I'm
in the
not.
trash. Yeah.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan.
It was laminated. It got cut up and thrown away. So either way, it was thrown away, destroyed in some capacity. And one
Yes.
more before we get to the AFC side quickly. Millie says this season the Eagles have the best defense to contain Jaden Daniels. Who knows about next year? But the Eagles are equipped this year. Yeah, listen. Listen. Howie Roseman it's about looking at the roster you have, and we were like, well, how can this defense get better? And somehow they got better. That's all you need to know. People that the Eagles, they're a top 10, and all of a sudden, like we knew they were a great defense, and Howie went out, said, let's get better. Like you have to have the mentality to get better because you know how great your offense is with Saquon. You got, Jalen Hurts, you got AJ Brown, you got Devontae. So Dallas Goddard, but defensively, you weren't terrible in that regard, and you still got better there. And to your point, Millie, it's a great matchup because listen, this is essentially boiling down between Cliff Kingsbury, the Commanders' offensive coordinator, and Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator of the Eagles. That's the matchup off the field. Is can Cliff Kingsbury find those holes that Vic Fangio probably is going to cover up? So it's what stone's going to be unturned is going to be the question. And before we get out of here, let's talk about the AFC because we talked about. Listen, usually I would ask, well, who do you think is going to win? I already know the answer. So I usually ask the guest, well, who do you think is going to win the game? I already know the answer. Let's just say, I just know the answer. Let's put it that way. So I'll give you a clue. It's not the team in Washington. I'll just put it. I think I'm fair to assume that. Listen, I could be wrong and off base, but I feel like, yeah, well, you guys get me. Now, before we get this, earlier in the chat, it was asked, where is it? I had the question, and where did it go? Oh, here we go. There we go. And so leads me to the final thoughts on this. If y'all win, which AFC team do you want to play the most? Or is there a preference, or is there a favorite toward one, or just get your thoughts on that?
So me personally, I think anybody could get it. I really don't care who the matchup is. But I have always loved the idea of an Eagles and Buffalo Super Bowl because I feel like our fan bases are very similar, and I think it would be an absolute party to have that kind of experience. So that's my that's the team that I would like to play. Just because, outside of our fan bases, I think Josh Allen, who's one of my other favorite quarterbacks in the league, I think that one, he deserves to get to the Super Bowl. I think he's been trying for many years and he just hasn't gotten over the hump. So it'll be really big for him to get to that stage. And then two, to see kind of how our defense measures up, because we've played some AFC teams, and our defense has stood tall, but I think with how Josh Allen is built, I think that he's a lot tougher of a quarterback to kind of contain, especially for an entire football game. So I think it'll speak volumes to how our defense plays against him versus how we play against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, like I said, we went toe to toe with him in the Super Bowl. Now our defense is much different than it was then, but at the same time, like their offense really hasn't changed. So we're very familiar with Travis Kelce. We're very, very familiar with Isaiah Pacheco. Like all these players, like we're very familiar with them. But playing Buffalo, because they come from another cold city, they're not really fazed by much of anything. So I think their mentality is very, very close to ours as far as do what it takes to win. And that's it.
That's a very interesting response. So now, before we get you out of here, and let's say I love you having on the show, because listen, you made the show so easy for me because it's like, hey, this hey makes it easy for me because it's
That's what
like
I'm here for.
listen, and plus listen, you come in and I mean this, like you know your stuff. I follow you, and you all should be following her. She's an amazing follow. Not when she talks about Eagles, she talks about the NFL in general. Listen, when she reacts, she's not joking. Like something happens, and like 30 seconds later, I see the tweet. It's like she doesn't miss. She doesn't miss. So that's the plug before the plug, and so now assuming so let's just say so we have the Eagles. So what are your thoughts on the Bills, like Bills and Chiefs match? Anything specific to look out for, and I think I have an idea who you think want to win, but I could be wrong. But just your thoughts on the Bills Chiefs game and your who you think gets to New Orleans?
Um, okay, so logically speaking, um, I think that the Bills have to be extremely, extremely disciplined in this game. We've seen all season, and I think I saw a stat yesterday saying that the Chiefs are uh the least team to get penalties or something like that. Like it's very strange. But it's like the penalties that they do get are game changing, So for me, I think that Buffalo has to be extremely disciplined. They have to go in there knowing what's at stake. They have to be very cognizant of where they hit, when they need to pull up, like all of these things. Because at any point, a drive for Kansas City could be extended because of a late hit. Late hit. Phantom late hits. We'll say that. Phantom late hits. Because you see players get popped in the helmet. You see players get drug out of bounds and there's no flags. But Patrick Mahomes flails his arms in the wrong way and it's a 15-yard penalty. And a first down. And it's things like that where I'm almost positive McDermott is emphasizing this to the Bills 100%. We know what the Bills can do in the regular season. It's almost like they're Kansas City's kryptonite in a way. They win during the regular season, but when it gets to the playoffs, it's kind of like it's too dicey. So I think as long as they are disciplined and they come into this game, play the way that they need to play, and limit the defensive penalties, then I think that they should win the game. Now, the NFL script will say that if things go haywire, Kansas City is going to win the game. They're going for a three-peat. Nobody has done that. So it's like, does the NFL want the Kansas City Chiefs to make history right now? Or do they want to make Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills happy and get them to their first Super Bowl in a while?
Listen, that's a great question. That's a great question. And so a couple more comments here. We get out of here. Let's see. Millie Mill says, but this time KC has the refs in their back pocket. That's the biggest. Yeah, listen.
Yeah, it is. It is because we've seen it happen all season. We've seen it happen all season. So that's why I'm like, logically, as long as Buffalo is disciplined, I think they'll get over the hump and beat Kansas City. But with the refs, I have no idea.
Yeah. So the refs, we put the refs as game changers as well. So we got Choppin 1970 saying Bills versus the Chiefs in the race. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we don't write this stuff. But let's see, Jay. He also jumped and says, "No way the Chiefs are losing. Butker will make a 70-yard field goal to win." Listen, the way the 70-yard, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think he's making a 70-yard field goal, but that's just me.
I mean,
I don't think he'll do it.
He's had a hard time making some 50-yard field goals. But anyway, but we're not gonna
Yeah.
we're not gonna get, we're all about positivity here. We're not gonna go there. Even though I did, we're not gonna go there again. So and then Joe, and one more comment from him. He says, "I'm a Bills fan, and I'm just waiting to see a flag after every play." Oh, listen, I'm telling you, like it's gonna be very reminiscent. Listen, I just want to see how this game is called. Like I'm worried about the number of penalties Buffalo's going to get that doesn't exist. Like that's going to be the question because
Yeah.
listen, we could like, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be 50-50. Like it could be really, if it's 50-50, okay. But if it's like 80-20, 70-30, and either they're pocketing the flag or they throw the, like, that's going to be the key. Because like I say, pass interference, there was listen, whatever narrative, like that's going to be the key to me. And Craig jumping in saying, Ladarius, hey, Craig, thank you for watching. We're just putting a button on it, but thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. And so before we get out of here, so I think if I have your Super Bowl correct, so we know the Eagles are going to go. Listen, I'm not going to ask the question because listen, I like to stay on the air. My birthday's next month. I like to be around. Just put like anything after February, all bets are off. But so we're going to say the Eagles are going to be there. So are the Bills going Josh Allen's first Super Bowl, or we're going to get the chance for history for the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? So who will the Eagles face in New Orleans in Super Bowl? I believe it's Super Bowl 59, I believe. So
I am gonna say the Bills,
there we go.
but it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be a close game because I feel like they always play their games pretty close. So I'm pretty sure leaning towards Buffalo beating Kansas City, if by 1 point.
Yeah, because listen, and I think I saw the spread for it. Listen, it's essentially a pick'em game, more or less. Anyway,
Yeah.
it might have changed. It's like I think it's 1.5, but it might have changed one way or the other. But so listen, I it just feels like Buffalo. If there was a year to knock off the Chiefs, this would be the year because
Yeah.
a lot of close games, a lot of listen. The Raiders could have beaten the Chiefs if they knew how to snap the ball to the quarterback the right way.
Right.
I'm just going to put it out there. Like if certain teams just did rudimentary, fundamental things that they've done their whole lives, the Chiefs may. I'm just listen. All it takes is just one. Like we saw with Detroit, how great Detroit was. All it took was one team to capitalize and expose the injuries. That's exactly what happened. So I'm leaning toward Buffalo as well. And my buddy Craig says I'm hoping for the Commanders. I don't know,
Get
boy.
that out of your head. Get that out of your head. It's not happening.
Listen, Craig, I
It's
didn't
not
say it.
happening.
Like Craig, I didn't like Craig. Let me talk to you, Craig. I didn't say,
No.
listen.
It's not happening. Sorry.
She's telling you, listen.
Listen, like Shady McCoy said, we are not Detroit. I need y'all to stop playing with my Eagles right now. We are not Detroit. Stop it.
You heard what? Yeah, I guess I'll be the backup. Yeah, you heard what she said. I'm way in the background as the backup because let's just know I'm there. I'm still on camera, but I'm still and I'm still there. Like, yeah, you heard what she said. And Carrie said, "Great show, guys. Thank you, Carrie
Thank you.
Millie Mills saying, I'm here in Delaware. If the Eagles lose to Washington, our whole state and y'all city is gonna feel like Detroit. I'm gonna be like, I'm. What is he saying? And I'm gonna be just like this, waiting to go to work.
We're not losing to Washington, so
Listen.
it's not happening.
You heard what she said. Listen, you heard what she said.
I said what I said.
She said what she said. Listen, I don't like people to listen. She said what she said. Now, and then a couple more comments like, and then Craig's like, oh man, Craig is missing. Yeah, that's yeah. Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries. Man, I just saw Craig at the party. I saw him. What happened? I don't know. He was
Exactly.
I saw him in Philly. I thought, hey, we're going to go hang out, and then next thing you know, I get a phone call saying, hey, I get a text saying, hey, I'm not able to show up, and I'm like, that didn't sound right. I don't question it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Craig said, you got to poke the bear. Listen, poking bears are
Yeah, but you
Dude,
see what happens when other people poke the bear. So
yeah.
Jared
Listen,
Bursey, I mean,
when we
he got to see firsthand what it looks like.
yeah.
So let's not play.
Listen, poking bears, I wouldn't recommend it in real life, but wouldn't recommend it. Yogi Bear, you can get away with it. Other bears, I wouldn't recommend. And we got
Right.
C-Dub saying awesome show, guys. And then people will go missing. And Millie Mill saying great show, y'all. And then C-Dub says smash the button and for Ladarius. Oh, thank you all. I hope you guys like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching it on the YouTube or on my Twitter page, it's great. So before we get out of here, Bree, tell all these amazing people where they can find you and the things that you are doing.
Well, you can find me more often than not on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at yourhost_breezy. I do live reactions. So you've seen very, very honest on there. And I like to argue when I have the time. So don't poke the bear if I got time. Something that I am actually really looking forward to. I am or should be making my way to the NFL Combine this year in Indianapolis. It's always been something that I've wanted to do, so definitely going to try my best to get out there and see what this new group of guys coming in looks like. So that should be really fun.
So there you go. So that means we got to have her on again. She goes to that combine, so we see the future of our league. So, man, once again, Bree, thank you so much. Listen, I'm not gonna. I love having you. Like, listen, you made the show so easy for me, and it's supposed to be the other way. And it's like, no, she made it. Like, listen, all I'm saying is, follow her on social media. She's absolutely amazing. And listen, I think you got a new follower. Carrie said, "Just follow Bree on Twitter and good luck to your Eagles." See,
Oh, thank you, Carrie.
So you see, folks. Listen, listen. All I gotta say is when we get out of here, y'all better hope Bree has plans, because if she has time, you better hope she has somewhere to go. Like I'm just saying, you better hope she has plans for the moment you want to argue, because if not, man, I'm gonna be there watching in the background, just going, "Oh no." Listen, it's gonna be like the wrestling. You put the wrestling. Listen, that Stone Cold, that Stone Cold Vince McMahon stuff. Listen, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be great. So
yeah,
the Craig says, I don't know if I can follow after that. Don't want to go missing. Hey, listen, Craig.
Hey, just don't poke the bear. That's all I'm saying. Don't poke the bear, you won't go missing.
Hey,
That's
Craig,
simple.
Craig, listen, you're my buddy. Listen, you had a good run, but I'm just saying, as your friend, just listen. Just don't poke the bear. Like, go to the other part of the, But anywho, but folks,
go bother Bills and Chiefs fans. How about that? Go bother them. Go bother them.
Exactly. So basically, stay away from Eagle. Listen, I know you, and then Holly. Like, listen, I know a lot of Eagles fans, and listen, I'm just saying, if you don't want to mess around and find out, that's all I'm going to say.
Right. There you go.
And then Millie said he's following you as well, and
appreciate you.
And so, folks, before we get here, I want to say thank you all for who watched and listened to this episode, Sports in the World podcast. And listen, until you see and hear me again, I'm Ladarius. And we got one more comment before I do my outro. Follow it on Twitter. I'm hoping your team will win. Yeah, there we go.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
So, folks, once again, thank you for watching and listening. And until you see and hear me again, once again, thanks to the amazing, your host, our host, everybody's host. If you're correct, she's your host for the upcoming week, Breezy. And Bree, thank you so much. And folks, until you see and hear me again, I'm Ladarius. Be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe. All here from the Sports and the World podcast.